What is up, people? This is Abraham Walker with Ask A Walker, your Northern Virginia real estate agent. So this is another video in our Landlord Corner series. This video we're talking about leases, things that pros put in their leases. Let's jump right into it. The first thing a pro puts into their lease is terms, right? And so you want to spell out these terms. You want to be very specific. First of all, you want to talk about the overall amount that the individual is going to pay. So if it's a 12-month lease, you want to multiply those monthly payments by 12 to get that complete term, and you want to have how much they're going to pay on a monthly basis. The next thing is the rent. How, right? And so how will it be paid? How will the rent be paid? Will it be paid by check? Will it be mailed in? Will it be delivered to a certain bank account? Will it be electronically paid? You want to make sure that's spelled out in the lease. The next thing is you want to make sure that you talk about the late payment, right? So if the rent is late, what happens, right? Is there a fee? How's that fee assessed? How's that fee collected? You want to add that into your lease. All pros have that. Who will stay in the property is very important. You want to make sure that all adults over the age of 18, well, at least that's how our leases are structured. All adults over the age of 18 are on the lease, and all adults that are over the 18 have also had their applications have been checked and were listed on the application, and this happens before the lease period ends. Remember that risk meter. This is just, it decreases the risk by knowing who these individuals are at the very beginning of this process. Next up, we want to talk about responsibilities, right? Responsibilities come into consideration when you consider what are responsibilities, right? So some examples of tenant responsibilities are who's going to take care of the lawn care, who's going to be changing out the filters, how often those filters are going to be changed, how often that lawn is going to be taken care of. Light bulbs need to be replaced, where they need to be replaced. The outdoor light bulbs need to be replaced, where those, who's responsible for that. Turning off water valves, right? So we're in Northern Virginia. When the temperature dips below a certain degree, you want to make sure you spell that out in your lease, that they're responsible for turning off the water. You want to also provide them with some instructions, not in the lease, but you want to give them some instructions for where to find that water valve. And you on your end, you want to make sure that you are aware of what the temperature is for your property, since you're managing it yourself. And when that temperature does drop to a certain temperature, make a call to your tenants just to remind them, hey, look, turn off the water at this particular point in the property, right? Holding a deposit should be in the lease. Who holds the deposit, right? Is that going to be you? Is that going to be a bank? Is that going to be a title company? Is that going to be a third-party vendor? How's the deposit handled? This is spelled out in the lease. Another thing, too, while we have a little time, remember, the lease, for the most part, isn't going to come into play until you have a disagreement, right? And so it looks like it's an agreement between two parties, but you really don't look at the lease until there is some disagreement. So you want to make sure that you put everything that you would disagree on in the lease to make sure that there is a way to handle it at that time. Gaining access to the property, how you're going to gain access is in the lease. And there's two reasons why you want to gain access to the property. One of the reasons you want to gain access to the property is to do your quarterly inspections, right? There should be some type of quarterly inspection done on the property to ensure that the property is being maintained properly, because you don't want to go 12 months at a time before knowing how the condition of the property, what is the condition of the property. The second way you want to make sure that you have the access, how your access is granted to properties for any repairs that need to be done by professionals, right? Maybe you have a maintenance contract on your AC unit, your heating and AC unit. Well, if you do not have something in your lease that says that access should be granted, then the tenant may not have to give you access. They can choose to give you access, and you want to make sure that that is not a choice. That is something that you already have in your lease. All right. Okay, so marketing. Sorry about that. All right, so with marketing, with respects to marketing, you want to make sure that in your lease there's something that says how many days before the lease ends can you start marketing? In our lease, it says 60 days. And then it also talks about the showing of the property and how our showing is supposed to be handled in the lease. So you want to spell that out on the front end because you don't want to get stuck. And I've talked to a lot of landlords that represent themselves on properties, and in their leases, they have these little janky little handwritten leases that have nothing in there about when they can market the property. So then the tenant refuses to let anybody into the property, which means that the landlord automatically has 1 month of vacancy. This is a huge deal. It can cost you money every year because you can wind up having a vacancy, a 1 month vacancy every year. Whereas if you start the marketing of your property 2 months before the lease ends, that will increase your chances of not having a vacancy, right? So it is less risky to have this clause in your lease. And then you want to, the last thing you want to have in your lease, not the last thing, but this is of significance in your lease, is notice. When should the tenant give you notice that they are moving out of the property, right? Is it 2 months? Is it 60 days? Is it 30 days? When should they have to give you notice? This is important because notice will determine A, if you need to start marketing your property, or B, if you need to negotiate a rent increase with the tenant. So if the tenant says, I will be staying in your property, you'll let them know, okay, great. To have the privilege of staying in my property, I will increase your rent by X, or I will maintain your rent, and then we will sign another year-long or however long contract with that individual. Do not. We are against month-to-month contracts. All pros are against month-to-month contracts. They are very risky, very risky. The tenant can wind up moving out at a time of the year you do not want to have your property on the market, which is usually in the third or fourth quarter and in the early parts of the first quarter, right? So that's all the ways that pros set up their leases. I just have this little disclaimer to kind of walk you through because this could be looked at as legal advice and I am not an attorney, right? So legal disclaimer. The information provided in this video does not and is not intended to constitute legal advice. Instead, all information and content in this video are for general informational purposes only. Information in this video may not constitute the most up-to-date legal or other information. Viewers of this video should contact their attorney to obtain advice with respect to any particular legal matter. No viewer of this video should act or refrain from acting on the basis of information on this video without first seeking legal advice from counsel in the relevant jurisdiction. Only your individual attorney can provide assurances that the information contained herein and interpretation of it is applicable or appropriate for your particular situation. Use of and access to this video does not create a client relationship between the viewer and Abraham Walker, Ascay Walker, or Keller Williams Realty. The views expressed at or through this video are those of Abraham Walker. All liability and with respect to actions taken or not taken based on the contents of this video are hereby expressly disclaimed. This video is provided as is. No representations are made that the content is error-free. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any questions, if you like this video, I probably should just ask about liking this video at the beginning because I'm pretty sure there's not that many people still watching right now. Anyway, if you like this video, please like it. Subscribe to it. Leave a comment too. Let me know how I'm doing. If you have some questions you want me to answer in a future video, you can reach me either by cell 703-539-2053 or via email abraham@ascaywalker.com, and I will see you on the next video. Peace.